Hey, welcome to another edition of Weekly Wisdom with Mama Starr. This week, my guest is Sharon Horne-Ellstrom, and we get to learn about what she learned when she died. So, have a great look, and if you enjoy our broadcast, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Weekly Wisdom with Mama Starr. My guest today is the lovely Sharon Horne-Ellstrom, who does everything. So we're going to find out about that. Welcome.
Thank
I have
you.
to say again, I love your hair. Looks
Thank
beautiful.
you. It's new. It's its debut right here on your show.
It is making its debut and premiere. And yeah, I think I always send out my little form about, what do you want to talk about? And you had said that you had a cardiac arrest and a divorce. So it sounds like you've had some serious life transitions happening. How long ago was that? What's been going on?
My sudden cardiac arrest was actually in 2010 on Labor Day, day after Labor Day. I had a sudden cardiac arrest and took a little leave of the planet, I guess, so to speak. And after they froze me and then put in a cardiac device, I was one of the lucky people that was resuscitated and actually survived that incident with pretty much my brain and my faculties intact. I guess the vast majority of people don't turn out as well as I do when they have an event like that. So after that, of course, I decided that I needed to get a divorce and a whole bunch of other life changes, which have all been good changes, but we're still in that transition because the divorce didn't happen until about a year and a half ago. So now I'm sitting in my house trying to pack everything up, and you can see all the clutter, and just separate out and get all those things, I guess, behind me. There's still a part of me, but behind me, so that they don't impact what I'm trying to do with my life and my businesses going forward.
Yeah. So that was, it sounds life-changing and life-altering.
And absolutely was.
And did you, was it a near-death experience? Did you actually?
Oh, no, I was dead. I was totally dead.
Wow.
So it wasn't a near-death experience. It was a total death experience.
It was a death experience. Yeah. Wow. And then,
lucky for me, I went down in one of my businesses, and the bartender there knew CPR. So I fell down, or I died right in front of the bathroom door, and he had gone into the bathroom. So when he came out, he almost stepped on me, and he's like, "Oh, Sharon, you're not breathing." So then he knew CPR and was able to help me until the paramedics came. And again, lucky for me, one of the paramedics was having an anniversary dinner across the street with his wife and heard the call. And so he ran across the street, and then the police car came and jump started me and all, the whole 9 yards.
So. Wow. So clearly you're here for a reason, and still here for a reason.
And I like to think so, yes.
So has it just been about exploring what's going on and why you're here? And
I spent a lot of time after that event doing exactly that, exploring and getting in touch more with my spirituality, because prior to that, I was an absolute psycho workaholic, and all I did was work and run through my life. And I spent the next year and a half, because for 6 months I couldn't drive or do anything. And then after that, the heart thing triggered. I've got eye problems. I do everything with a magnifying glass. That isn't a joke. I have magnifying glasses everywhere.
Yeah.
Because in my 20s, I lost the vision in my left eye. And then my right eye, after this heart incident, started to take that same route, that same path.
Right.
So before I lost all the vision in that eye, I had eye surgery. So I kind of lost a whole year, but that gave me a lot of time to study and learn and try to figure out what the heck had happened to me and a little bit more of what it meant. And I stopped doing, I was running, I think, 6 or 7 businesses at the time. I immediately stopped doing 6 of them. And I said, I'm not doing these anymore. And then the 7th one, I transitioned to my son. And then he got in a car accident, and I ended up back in that business until a couple of years ago when the divorce went through and we had to sell the building and the business. So yeah, it's been kind of a jumbled mess. And that's when I discovered that, I kind of want to do stuff online.
Yeah.
But I was learning about online and digital stuff and the whole world of online stuff I didn't ever know anything about, because I never had time before to explore those things.
Wow. And still exploring it with the magnifying glass, which has got to be
Well, that's part of why it takes me a while to get through the treasure hunt.
Yeah,
And why it takes me a while to
exactly.
get through everything, because it just,
Exactly.
and I still keep going, but it takes me a little bit longer probably
Yeah.
than most people.
Yeah. No, my mom has macular degeneration. She's 92. And so, I know that struggle. And it was so funny. It was like, reminds me of yesterday. I was over at her house, and she wants to still watch her movies and stuff like that. But she can't see the buttons, to do all that stuff. And so she'll call me and she'll be like, I don't know what the TV's doing. I don't understand why it's not working. And I'll come over and flip a switch, and it works. And yesterday I did the same thing to her, and she's just like, why is that working for you and not for me? And I said, well, because I have eyes. I was like, oh wait, you have eyes too. They just don't work, Mom. And she like gave me a glare, and I was like, okay, I'm leaving before I get in any more trouble right now.
Well, does she live on her own? That's fantastic.
She does, yeah. She's in a wheelchair and she's blind, but she has her dogs and her birds and her cats, and she gets up every morning and mops her floor. And
wow, good for her.
yeah, so it's been an interesting thing, and I think that's one of the things that I've learned is I can't put things. Everything has to go in the right spot, because otherwise she doesn't know where it is. And
yeah, for a blind person, you don't go over to their house and rearrange stuff.
you
It's
can't.
not helpful.
Yeah, you have to know. So how has that impacted you? The not being able to see things. Are you can't drive, can you?
Well, I used to drive, but I haven't really driven since last December.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of stopped driving because I don't think it's really a good idea. I mean, I can drive. I can see with my glasses enough. And I haven't been able to see out of my left eye since, oh my gosh, probably 28 years. Well, more than that, 29, probably 30 some years ago, I lost the vision in my left eye.
Uh-huh.
And then I had surgery on it, and I got a little bit of vision in it. So I can see like light and shapes and things, but I couldn't drive out of my left eye. But my right eye, with glasses, I can see good enough to drive. I've just kind of stopped doing it in the last several months because, I don't see that good. And I'm like, if I'm using a magnifying glass to read my computer, should I really be driving? Probably. Right. So I don't ever want to put anyone in harm's way, because I'm at the salon and I tripped over a big old table thing just going to get my hair cut. So I'm like, yeah, maybe that is a good decision. So
well, for me, that's just general klutziness, everyday life.
That too. So
yeah.
add that and then not being able to see very well, and it makes for some really interesting things.
Yeah. Now, how long were you married before you got divorced?
25 years.
Yeah, I was married 20 years when I got divorced, and it's an interesting transition, isn't it? It's like you have to kind of redefine yourself and learn who you are.
I think I have kind of ignored it, but I think that at some point I gotta deal with it and deal with all the ramifications of it, because I think there is a big sense of failure that comes along with that, because I grew up in the era with parents. My parents and my grandparents were both like the model couples. So for me to be divorced, it feels a little bit like a failure. And I'm cool with failure. I fail all the time at stuff, but it seems like one of those really big, heavy ones where, what did I do wrong? But to be honest, I was not always awesome, but my husband was kind of a shit. And he didn't have the same values and morals that I do, and behaviors that he thought were okay totally go against my core values. And so, great dad, great person, just not a great person for me.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. We get along a lot better now than we did when we were married. So I think that's all good.
Yeah.
But it's like my dad died a couple years ago, and you go through the grieving process and stuff when somebody dies and passes away. And there's a lot of changes that happen with that. But divorces, I think, are really similar, but the person's not dead. You just have to deal with all the separation of assets and things, which to me, that stuff just makes me crazy. It's just stuff that's really heavy for me and I don't like to deal with. It's like, just take everything. I don't want to deal with it. But unfortunately, he left and didn't take everything. And so I'm left dealing with the mess that's left behind. So,
yeah. And I remember that when I was in college, way back in the 80s.
Me too.
But I remember taking a family communication class, and they talked about divorce and step families, and that one of the things they said was the problem with divorce is there's just not a body to bury, because sometimes you wish you could. Yeah. You really wish you could just.
Yeah, there were those times.
And I mean, well, I don't want to take my children's father away from them. No, 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 no. But
No.
there were certainly times when I wanted to just go, could you just drop off the planet right now? Because I would really rather not deal with you. Right. So I get that. And it is, I love what you said about failing. Cause my favorite thing is always just fail forward. Just go ahead. Don't be afraid of that failing thing, because it's going to happen, and just fail better next time, fail forward.
Yeah.
And learning how to do that is I'm beginning to think I'm making an art of it.
We all do. I was talking about it in my podcast this morning, or in not my podcast, my Facebook Live this morning, about taking chances and failing. And if I think back over my life, I've had, maybe one success to every 100 failures. Every 100 things I've tried, one thing is, and maybe it's a little bit better percentage than that, but maybe not, because we try and we do all kinds of different things, and most of them aren't going to work out. And that's okay. As long as you're just trying and moving and taking action and moving forward, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is you just don't give up.
Right.
It's like failure is not the end. Failure is more information.
Yep.
And so once you figured that out, oh, okay. And I mean, I went through a big one here lately where it was like, I kept believing all the gurus who said, oh yeah, you just get out there and you just have to believe in yourself and you'll find your tribe and the money will come. And that got me to flat ass broke, is what that got me. And, I finally had to go, I have to define my own version of success. I have to decide that the part where I let go of this one part of my business because I wanted to do this other part of the business, the one part of my business that was making money was the one that I let go of. And that I needed
to done that.
So I think you do. I think I can kind of sense from you that you just kind of handle it with a sense of humor. It's like, oh, okay, well.
I'm sure I didn't used to when I was younger. And I'm sure actually before the sudden cardiac arrest, I was terrible. I mean, I was your textbook psycho type A personality. Yeah. And after that, it's just like, yeah, that wasn't working out very well for me. So I better figure out something that does.
Yeah.
And so now I'm probably too laid back and too unprofessional, but I'm a lot happier. So I'm okay with that.
That happiness is a huge, huge, huge thing. I always have to ask that, it's like I have, like I said, I have a friend who's going through a breakup right now, and I'm like, have you been happy? If you're not happy, then you should be moving on.
I think that was the thing with my marriage. I mean, we were like separated and lived separately for like, gosh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before we finally actually got the divorce done. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and we weren't, I mean, I loved the guy, but we weren't happily married. He was a very controlling person, and I'm not the kind of person that you control. So I'm not quite sure how I even fell into that one, but
yeah. How do you spend? Yeah. How do you, I mean, and I mean, I'm the same way. I'm like with my first, I mean, I've been married twice now and finally living with the love of my life. And every time we say marriage, I'm like, I don't.
No, please, no.
but what I discovered was, no, I was no picnic to be married to. I was flat out not. I was not fun. I was also controlling. I was also entitled and expecting everything to be handed to me, and I own that. I admit that. But it was also, I think we got married when I was 20, and I always have this philosophy of, we woke up one day and we looked at each other and we're like, yes, I grew up with you, and yes, I've had children, but what the hell am I doing with you now? Why are we still together? Because it's just not working. Mm-hmm. And so learning that lesson, and then having to deal with the guilt, the angst, the should I have, could I have, what, all of that. Divorce is hard.
Yep. I agree. I never thought I would get divorced. And so it's been easier to just not ever deal with any of it. But I'm getting to the point where, okay, I got to deal with all this stuff and deal with it and get it done.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be kind of like getting a haircut. It's going to be like a big weight lifted off my shoulders if I just get it.
Right. Especially if your family's trying to set you up with people right now. So
Yeah, they're not though.
yeah.
They just think I should be married and somebody should be taking care of me. They also think I should go get a job. I'm like, you guys, I have not worked since 2014 for someone else. Nobody's going to hire me at 58, and I don't want to work for somebody else anyway. I would drive them crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think about that too. As entrepreneurs, as being your own boss, no matter how broke you are, you're not working for anybody else. You get to call the
Exactly.
shots. I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
I would guess that instinct has played a huge part in running your business. Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I found that whenever I don't listen to my gut, I make huge mistakes. And I go back and I think about that. I was thinking about that as part of this discussion. When I married my husband, the day I married my husband, I should have been happy and all. I feel awesome about this, but I knew there was something in my intuition that said, you are making a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. And I knew it, but I was, standing there in my dress with all this stuff and all my family. And even though I knew 100% I was making a huge mistake, it was like you get to that point of no return where you're not going to back out because everybody's expecting you to do the right thing and go forward with it. Right. And I don't regret that because I have a beautiful daughter and we had a lot of fun and a lot of good memories. But I wonder what my life might have been like had I made a different choice and had I really stood up for what I knew was right for me at the time. Same thing in business. The couple times that I've really fucked up, and I hope I can say that.
Oh, you can say all the F-bombs you want.
Is when I let my husband convince me that we should go into business with a partner who turned out to be a really, really bad partner and was a contributing factor in my sudden cardiac arrest. That's the kind of stress and drama that this person brought into our lives. And I knew it. I knew that this was the wrong decision, and I went along with him anyway. So every time I've ever done that and not listened to my gut, even if it's screaming something that doesn't necessarily seem like it's in my best interest right then, it's always in my best interest. I just have to learn to always listen to it. And so I think I listen to myself a lot better now than I ever did then, because I've had some huge lessons, one life-threatening that said, yeah, maybe we're telling you and giving you these signs for a reason. You should frickin' listen. So now I listen a little better than I used to.
Right. Exactly. And it's so funny because I've had that exact same parallel where it's like we ran into an individual where I just flat out knew I should not communicate with this person. And Scott continued to communicate with him, and it ended up being a really bad decision all the way around. And so it is. And one of the things that I'm working with now, because I started, you're in my group, and I've started out with very, very much in the woo space, very, let's all learn about our intuition. Now I'm working with this. There's got to be a balance. You've got to bring the practical side in to balance out the woo-woo space. And God knows you create magic and you create your intentions and set things in motion from that space. But then you got to get their boots on the ground, and you got to, I think I'm writing a blog, I think called Come Down from the Mountain, where you just have to be in it, in the world, in this life, participating in that too.
Right. Well, we're here to experience our life as only uniquely we can. And that's how we expand and contribute to the world and the universe. At least that's what I believe now. And so you can't do that if you're not experiencing life, if you're just sitting back and being woo-woo. And I'm kind of balanced in the woo-woo because I'm really attracted to those things. And especially since my event, I'm super attracted to those things. And I love studying and reading about and learning about them and experiencing them. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years after that event. And then I pulled myself back into, okay, I love this stuff, but what am I going to really do? What am I really here to do? And how am I going to impact the world? And so, yeah, I think there is a balance in that, but I love this stuff.
Yeah. I know.
But most people don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't get it. And they don't believe it. It's not that they don't get it. They just aren't open to believing that there's other possibilities than what they've been taught.
Yeah. I'm beginning to see, and I never know if it's just because I'm in an echo chamber on Facebook and I'm just associated with all kinds of people who are into the woo, or if I don't know. I mean, I think that on some level people get it, but the people who just flat out are like, no, 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 this doesn't happen. It's like, have you ever paid attention to a gut feeling? Have you ever turned left instead of right when you thought you were going to turn left? I mean, these are all things that just happen. It's an amazing process to watch, but I've begun, that whole, let's balance it. Let's pull it out and make sure that we're not just sitting there waiting for the universe to bring us something when we can get off our asses and do it ourselves.
We always have to take action. It's just about taking inspired action. It's about listening to your intuition and then saying, it's like this women's summit. This just came up last week. It's like, I wasn't going to do a women's summit. I was going to do a summit for my business group. And then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I need to niche down and get more specific. I want to work with more women. And then I'm like, okay, well, why don't I do a women's summit? So I asked a question in a group and I got this overwhelming response. So now I'm doing a women's summit in the next month or so. Nice. I don't know how to do it, but I know I'll figure it out, right? So I might fail, I might crash and burn, but I'm hoping not. And I don't think so, because I think that there's a lot of need for that. And it's only born out of my male dominated life, right? Where I'm an engineer, so engineering school, I think there were 4 girls in our class. Yeah. At the University of Minnesota, 4. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And so then I went to corporate America and it was the same thing. Right. And then in the different businesses I've been in the industries, same thing. And I looked at my coaching students and I'm like, all right, 80% of you are men. What's wrong with this picture? So I thought, well, I want to find more women and attract more women to my business. So now I'm going to do a women's summit, which I'm sure that will happen. Yay! Not on purpose, but accidentally that will just happen as a result of that. So I can get more balanced in my customer base, because I like working with men, but I would really like to experience working with more women, because I've worked with so many men throughout my whole career. I think that women are fun and magical and amazing beings because we can actually multitask. Right. Yeah, no, it is. I dove into universal law for quite some time. And I think it's a more of a mindset thing. Universal law at like absolute universal laws. Yeah. And so I was finding that woo-woo, right? And so that's one of it is the law of gender is that the masculine and the feminine have to be in balance. That the feminine is more intuitive, the masculine is more action oriented, and you have to use your intuition in order to know which action to take. And follow that. And I love what you said about, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. That's happened to me so many times. Oh my God. Oh yeah. It's like, and a lot of times I used to say it was, is spirit saying, okay, like when, I do online readings. And so I was very dependent on drawing my cards and reading the book and saying what the thing was. And so one day I'm like sitting there and all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to do a live, just ask your questions and I'll answer them. And I'm like, I don't fucking know how to do that. The live part? The answering questions just off the top of my head part. And it's like, Spirit's like, no, don't even worry about it. We'll show you, you're fine. It's fine. So it's like, sometimes you just take that leap. And figure it out. Yeah. And figure it out on the way. I think I saw a thing, she took the leap and grew her wings on the way down, and that's a great way to be. I love that. That's so cool. Not always that way, but I'm getting more that way. Well, part of it is too, when did I start working online? I went to, do you know what Clickfunnels is? Oh yeah. So I'm a Clickfunnels certified partner, and I jumped into that training. I had just closed on the building and sold my business. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm old, but I'm not so old I don't want to do anything else. So what am I going to do? I got to do something, because I didn't make enough money off that to last me very long. Yeah. So I decided, I had seen something from Jim Edwards about, Clickfunnels, and I looked at something and I just signed up to be a certified partner. So I spent the first 8 months of that. I got my certification right away, I think like in 3 months or something. Yeah. But then I spent the next 8 months creating a product about stress. I did all the mistakes, create the product first and then hope people will come and want it. No, backwards. So now I'm like, no, find out what people want, ask them, create it with them, and you'll figure it out. So That's my new philosophy after, 8 months of struggling. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to struggle like that anymore. Forget it.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. I mean, I think the greatest success I've had was when I was like, okay, I'm beta testing this course on you guys, and let people help me build it,
Right.
and tapped into what they wanted. And so now, even now, I've started the Divine Connections group, and it cracks me up because it's like I always started out thinking, okay, I'm going to teach people how to do intuition, and I'm going to use this particular method. And I start out using this particular method, and then boom, left turn. And now we're doing a new thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to follow it because it's working, and it's intuitive, and it feels good. So I follow it.
It's all about if it feels good or not. I'm learning
Right.
that if it feels good, it's for me. If it feels bad, it's not for me. No matter how smart or wise it might seem, it's not for me. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole, which is really helping me with shiny object syndrome. It's like, do I really need to learn this? No, you don't. Go back to what you were doing. So it
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, I know. I've had a conversation with another intuitive the other day, and we were talking about how, yes, you have to do that, but you still need a damn to-do list, and you need to make sure you get your tasks accomplished and get those done. And so I guess it's like almost engaging the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, and bringing that balance. It's about balance. It's always about balance. That's really cool. So tell me
It's
about
where
this.
we ever balance, though. I don't know about you, but I find I was talking about something the other day too about, the different areas of your life and how they should be balanced. And I kind of laugh about that because I don't remember a time in my life that I've ever been balanced in all the different areas and aspects of my life.
Right.
Something always is higher or lower based on what I'm learning or doing or what the needs are. I mean, when you're raising kids, that takes precedence. You have to raise your family and make sure they survive. So then family becomes more important. But there's other times when work or finances or spirituality or whatever it happens to be takes more of a higher percentage of your time and energy, I guess.
Yeah, so I wonder if that, I mean, the way you say that is like, I wonder if, I mean, we have to kind of expand our view of balance is not balance in every single fucking moment. But
Oh, heck no.
overall, it's like that pendulum. It swings back and forth and back and forth and eventually finds its center.
Yeah.
And as long as you're okay and know who you are as you're walking through it, that's the most important part. And even if you don't know who you are, you're learning.
Right.
And I mean, it's like always why I tell the story about, the reason my company is called Yonder Star is because one time somebody asked my brother, who's from Texas, where exactly is yonder? And he was like, well, it's not here, and I'm like, that's the thing. Yonder is not here.
Mm-hmm.
And you get there and it's moved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about that journey to getting to that place. And the value is in that journey. It's, it's like somebody asked the other day, I think they were like, do you think coaching helps you get there faster? And I was like, yes, without a doubt, coaching does help you get there faster. But sometimes you have to take that journey on your own, because sometimes you pick up lessons along the way that you would have missed with somebody just giving you the answer right away. Somebody just showing you how to do it.
I totally agree with that, because what we forget is that the journey is the answer. It's not getting to the goal. It's what we learn and what we become and who we become and how we grow along the way. That is the answer. I was talking to one of my coaching students this week about being the bottleneck of my business. Every time I've ever been trying to grow my business, and everybody I work with, as much as we hate to admit it, we are always the biggest problem in our business. We're also the ultimate solution, but we're the biggest problem. So if something isn't happening in our business, it's not because of something in the environment or the politics or something somebody else is doing to us. It's the way we're reacting to whatever's going on isn't in a position that's allowing us to grow and expand and make things happen for our business. So, people that want to be overnight successes, well, the only way you're going to be an overnight success is if you massively change overnight and become the person that is capable of running that overnight success type business. And most of us aren't capable of doing that. We have to go through a progression and a series of steps to learn how we become the person we need to be to lead whatever it is that we're trying to create. So
Yeah.
it's all about the journey.
It is.
And enjoying the experience, because when we leave, all we get to take with us are our experiences. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I do. I'm like, so many thoughts came into my brain as you were talking. I'm like, whoa, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. But it's really, and I think the thing about the overnight successes too is it's like, were they really overnight?
No.
No.
If you look into anybody's story, they're not. That's what is really interesting about online marketing and marketing in general. I know a lot of these people that are big gurus now,
Yeah.
and I just laugh when I hear them tell their story. And some of my coaching students will say, well, what about so and so did this? And I'm like, yeah, but are you remembering their whole story? No,
Right.
you're just hearing the piece that they're putting out in their marketing message, and
Right.
that they're using that to draw more people into their world, but they're not telling you about the 12 years that they toiled and struggled, and the 25 different businesses they had. So they look like they're an overnight success, but they're not. They had to become the person that they are now, and that was a journey for them. It didn't happen in 6 months of coaching or with one cool funnel. It's all the things that led up to them being able to create that amazing funnel that brought the people to them that would be attracted to them anyway, but they had to get through that journey first. So
Right. Right.
I
It's
don't
all
believe in overnight successes. I don't think there's any such thing.
yeah.
Um,
No.
Anybody, maybe in the past life they paid all their dues, and that's why it looks like an overnight success here. I don't think I understand all of that enough to talk about it, but I believe that everybody pays. Sorry, that's my son. Some way or another. So I just hang up on him. He was doing acupuncture.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it's like, Facebook. I mean, we see the highlight reel.
Oh
We
my
really
gosh,
do.
yeah.
We see the good stuff, and it's like, I've started this, especially in my group, and a lot of times I'll say things in my group that I won't say publicly because it's a safe space, and I know I can say that to them, and I will talk about, here's where I'm struggling. This is what's going on for me right now. I'm having a hard time right now, because I think as coaches, our job is not to just push people, but to model for them how to walk through the crap that comes up. And
Absolutely.
that's always in my consciousness, is it's like, there's more going on here than you can see. So let me just break it down for you. I'm struggling with this right now. One day I literally was like, you'll find the video in the group somewhere. I was like, you guys, I made rent and I had like $3 left, but I made rent.
That's awesome.
And they're all like, yay!
Yay.
But it's important to say, this is the reality of my life. And I think people get afraid of that. I think I know I was really always afraid of, people are going to judge me. People are going to judge me. But as soon as I started stepping out authentically and just saying, here's what's going on in my life, and I'm going to tell you the bald ass truth, people were supportive. They were very, I get it. I understand.
The right people are supportive, because the truth is people are going to judge us no matter what. So
Right.
I always say you might as well let them judge you for being an example rather than a warning. So be your weird ass, totally you self. I mean, I'm not in my pajamas because I went and got my hair cut, but normally I'm in a bathrobe 90% of the time doing my thing. And people are like, well, that's not professional. And I'm like, you're not my target audience. I don't care if you don't think it's professional.
Right.
Did have a conversation, which was really interesting, as part of this 30-day challenge thing that Clickfunnels is doing. They're doing pre-work about beliefs. And one of the things was about what is your biggest fear or false belief, I think. And one of my coaching students asked me that yesterday. And I said, I will tell you what my biggest false belief and fear is, or my biggest false belief, I guess. It's that I'm not good enough, or that I don't deserve everything that I want in life. And have I been working on that belief my entire life to kill that baby? Absolutely. But it still rears its ugly head whenever I try to do something new, whenever I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, which is every freaking day, right? So it pops up, and it's just, I don't let it live in me very long anymore.
Right.
But it used to affect everything that I did and every decision that I made. So I'm like, yeah, that's mine. I'm not good enough. And I think he was surprised I said that, but I'm like, it's absolutely true. But I don't think I'm alone in that. I think that the vast majority of our population has this undercurrent of not thinking that we're good enough. I don't know why the hell we think that, and that we don't deserve what it is that we really want. I don't know what it is or where it all comes from, but boy, if we could eradicate that one, I think we could change the world.
I think we could too. I think you're right. And it is. I think more people struggle with that than want to admit it. And I mean, I did this thing one time where I asked people to tell me who their favorite bad girl was. And then I did the opposite and said, well, tell me who your favorite good girl is, you know, with the perception. And the funniest part was on both sides of that equations. I think one was Chrissy Hind, and I think the other one was like Audrey Hepburn or something like that. And they were basically saying, you can fake confidence. You can fake confidence until it's there, but just go ahead and do it, because you may as well, you know, just try the thing. And it's especially with my coaching clients, my people I do readings for. One of the biggest questions, especially when I do readings, is this going to succeed? And it's like, that's up to you. I can't tell you the future. I can't say whether or not. I can tell you, here's some benchmarks to look at. I can tell you, if you believe it will succeed, you're going to have a better chance of making it succeed. Now, all the beliefs in the world are not going to make it succeed. It's back to that legwork. It's back to doing the things that you need to do. My biggest point the other day was, it's like, I always say, if you take a step in the direction of spirit will take 10 steps on your behalf. But you have to keep stepping. You don't reach success in 11 steps.
Nope, you got to eat every day. It's one thing. It's always moving forward one day at a time.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Tell me about this women's summit. What are you going to do? What is that?
I'm actually researching, because I'm an engineering nerd, so I like research, but I'm actually researching what are women who are growing their business or women just starting out, because I asked the question, do you want it to be for experienced business women or for people just starting out, or both? And of course the answer was overwhelmingly both, which means it's going to be a much bigger summit than I had originally planned on. I was thinking, a mini summit, maybe one day, but now it's probably going to have to be 3 days to a week. And I'm cool with that, because I think it'll help a lot more people. But I'm trying to narrow in on what is the one main biggest question that kind of serves both of those audiences. And that's what it'll be about. Mm-hmm. But my whole thing is helping people grow and supersize their businesses and transitioning from the offline brick and mortar world and getting an online component to those businesses. Because unlike most online business people, I believe that there's more to business than marketing and sales and having an online business. I think that the vast majority of business that gets done on the planet is always going to be offline. It's not going to be virtual. Mm-hmm. So as much as online people like to think the whole world will be run virtually, I don't think it's going to be, not in my lifetime anyway. So,
yeah.
So it's going to have all women speakers, and then the topics that are most important to women. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm culling through tons of information, and I'm of course nominal group techniquing and doing all my nerdy statistical things on it, and coming up, okay, what are the things that women really want to hear about, not what I think women want to hear about, because it's easy to default to that sometimes, because I've been a businesswoman for 4 decades. So plus corporate America for over a quarter century. I can't believe I even say that.
I know.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been in corporate America for over a quarter century, but I haven't been there for 15 years. So that's really scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's one of the funny, and you're right. It's like, I'm always like, well, isn't everybody like me? Doesn't everybody think the way I think? Because I get stuck in that sometimes, and I'm like, well, and I can't remember, somebody was like, oh, I remember I said, I told one of my friends one time, I said, well, I can feel a thought. And she's like, what? And I'm like, what? Not everybody does that? Really? I didn't know that. It's like,
there's so many things like that in our life where we think that the whole world thinks like we do, and we forget. It's really good if you can step out of yourself and think about that and put yourself in other people's shoes. It's really hard to do, especially if there's strong emotions involved, like ex-husbands. But if you can do that, it's really powerful, because it gives us the opportunity to expand and see other people's perspectives, and that makes it, communication and relationships and everything better.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do. It's really hard because we all think that everybody thinks like us, but actually nobody on the planet probably thinks just like you or just like me. And
No.
I get a lot of that. I'm like, they're like, I don't even understand how you can think that way. And I'm like, okay, I just have always thought that way. And it's all of our experiences they're all so unique. That's what makes our way of viewing the world and looking at the world so different and unique.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with this Women's Summit. I think it's going to be.
Well, I'm excited to see what I do with it
I
too.
know. I can't wait to see what I come up with.
It's taking up really fast. I've already got 7 speakers, and I haven't even reached out to the women that I wanted in the first place to be a part of it. I've got a list of like 70 women that I'm like, oh my God, I would love these women to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are from the Gorilla Nation, which I haven't reached out to anybody yet because I feel like I should have the topic or the core, the hook or whatever they call it, decided before I ask people if they want to speak at it so we can figure out, all right, where does it fit in the whole curriculum or whatever.
Right.
I promised myself I would figure that out today, but I get to hang out with my beautiful 3-year-old granddaughter at 5, so I don't know if I'll get it done or not. We'll see. I'll work on it this weekend for sure and have it nailed by Monday.
Yeah. It's really funny. The other thing that really caught me when you said that was, this, like, oh crap. I'm going to be 54 in a couple of months. I was like, I just realized. Usually it comes about November. I'm like, my birthday's in December, and usually by November I'm like, oh hey, wait a minute, I have a birthday coming up. But that whole 40 years ago.
I know, isn't that crazy?
I know, because now I'm like sitting here going, okay, 40 years ago I was 13 and we had just moved to Arizona, and wow. And it reminds me of that whole part about, I just thought of Cher, about reinventing yourself constantly. I mean, if you think about it, I've lived a lot of different lifetimes in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I've been the 20-something party girl. I've been the 30-year-old mom, stay-at-home mom. I've been the 40-something divorcee out in the world learning how to navigate all of that. I've been all those things. And I think it's a constant reinvention that we get to. And my mom is like, I can't remember one time, she's 92. And I think when she was in her 80s, I was like, well, I can't wait till I grow up and have all the answers. And she's like, what makes you think you're going to do that? I was like, what? We just don't. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, I think, to know everything, and we just can't.
I think I've given up knowing. I know that there is so much more that I will never know or ever experience that I don't even try to worry about it anymore. But yeah, I remember when I was younger thinking that I had to know all the answers and I had to always be right. And I'm like, think of all the energy I wasted arguing with people that I was right. And, even in corporate America, I think back to my early corporate career, and my favorite job was always, my favorite job was my last job in corporate America, where I went into that interview and I just laid it on the line. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I will do. This is what you're going to get from me. And they hired me. And so that was my most fun job ever, because I got to be exactly who I wanted to be in that particular role. And so since then, I kind of took that into my businesses once I left corporate America. And it was like, yeah, this is kind of just what you get. So
yeah,
with it.
Yeah, that unapologetically, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And either you dig it or you don't. And if you don't, that's fine. Go on. It was so funny because I was like, there was something, I said something political in a post a couple of days ago. And I try to avoid politics, but let's face it, I mean, here lately it's been kind of hard. And I think up until November, whenever 6th or whenever the election day is, it's going to get more and more intense. But I said I had some kind of a thing about, oh, I remember what it was. I said, can't we just take all the old white dudes and put them on an island somewhere so the rest of us can live in peace?
And women you should send with them, I think.
And so the really funny part was somebody apparently who has been following from me for a while and has never, ever commented on anything I've ever done before puts, well, that's really spiritual. And I mean, I had to sit with that for a while because I was like, number one, there was the part of me that was like, oh my God, somebody didn't approve of me. And then there's, oh my God, who is this person? Oh my God, I need to justify myself. Oh my God, da 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 da. And finally, I just, I'm a Bitmoji addict. So I just put namaste.
That's perfect.
You want me to be spiritual? Namaste.
I think the thing about the internet, it's the same thing that I found in corporate America with email. People think that they can say and do and behave in ways that they would never behave to your face. I've never understood that phenomenon.
Yeah.
I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
But with politics and things, it's so bad on social media. I pretty much, and there's been a couple times I've gotten sucked into political things, or I'll make a little bit of a comment that somebody takes the wrong way, not about politics, but about anything. Yeah. And they get all pissy. And I just have learned to just not engage and ignore them. Yeah. Or mostly I laugh. Like I got my first hater a while back, and I just laughed so hard because I'm like, I know that people tell us and show us who they are with their comments and their hating. It's not about us ever. It's always about them. And once you know that, I don't take haters personally at all anymore, or people that are super judgy. It's like, okay, I get it. I hear you're telling me your story, but that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I kind of laugh at them now, but I'm like, it does kind of hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, why does this hurt my feelings? Does this really belong to me, or does it belong to them? Well, it totally belongs to them. So then I just give it back to them in a nice, neat little package and move on and do something else, because there's always people that are going to hate us. There's always people, and it's really that they don't hate us. They just, I don't know, they're just judging us and expecting us to have their same thinking, their same opinions, their same thought process, and we don't have to. They get to have their opinion and we get to have ours.
It does. It goes back. Nobody thinks the same way I do.
Exactly.
Or the same way you do. I mean, and it is really funny because we kind of come full circle in that we kind of assume that people would think the way we do, but how could they? I mean, I have my life experiences and the points in my life that built up who I am, and they have theirs. And so I think the closest you can come is to get to know somebody well enough to understand, okay, I see this in you now. I understand where you are right now. And that's been the biggest thing in our relationship is you just snapped at me. I'm going to go move myself to another room because you're not in a good mood right now. And I'm just going to leave that and not taking that personally. Just going,
right, because it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's got to do with what's going on with your partner.
Yeah.
And even with my kids and things, I've gotten a lot better about doing that, saying, okay. And then when I'm snapping at them, I'm like, hey, I'll apologize to them. Like, you guys, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm stressed about. I'm sorry I snapped at you. It's got nothing to do with you. And try to get them to understand that we all get our own reactions and we have to be responsible for them. But our reactions are never about what somebody else does or says or thinks about us. It's always about what it triggers in us that we're then responding to. So we're responding a lot of times to old hurts or old wounds that we didn't even realize we still had because they're buried down so deep.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that's the interesting thing too. I don't know if you're familiar that there's a concept called, it's parts theory. It's internal family systems where, you have parts inside of you that are triggered and react. And so you can have a conversation with them and everything. But I still find parts that are injured from when I was 6 years old. And I'm like, okay. And that's one of the, I'm not good enough things is, something happened when I was 6 years old that triggered this part of me that thinks it's not okay for me to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And that has manifested in my life in this way. And so it's really come down to, okay, I can choose to stay in that part, or I can choose to stay with that, or I can say, I'm 53 years old now. It is really okay for me to be seen. It is really okay for me to try, and if I fail in front of people, they get to see how I manage that too. And I'm still going to survive, and I'm not going to die.
Right. Which is probably one of the best gifts you can give other people, is showing them that it's okay to try things and have them not work out 100% in front of them. And how do you respond to that? And how do you recover? And what do you do next? Because I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. I think that they just hide away and they turn into themselves when they have a failure versus leaning into that failure and moving forward. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great example to set.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the, I think it's a coachy word, and I use it all the time myself, is lean into it. But I'm like, okay, how do you define lean into it? I think it's just you just let it happen. You just
Yep.
allow it and just don't fight it, I guess is the big thing.
I think, yeah, you just let it flow. I think that helps with emotions too, because we all feel like this roller coaster of emotions, and
Hmm.
you can stop at an emotion and stay locked in there and let it negatively impact you. Or you can say, okay, I'm feeling really ornery right now about this. I'm just going to let it roll through me. I think of technology and technological struggles on the computer. That stuff just trips me and irritates the living crap out of me and frustrates me. Now I can get all upset about it and I can spend 2 weeks struggling with a problem, or I can stop, take a deep breath, ask myself a better question, and maybe I'll just ask somebody for help. I'll Google it or something, and I don't have to be all upset about it and just let it flow through me. So I think with negative things, if you just let them flow through you and let yourself feel it and get it over with,
Yeah,
versus stopping it and letting it be blocked there and then reliving it for days and days or weeks or months in your brain.
yeah.
I mean, we've all been guilty of that, or I have been.
Or resisting it. I mean, I think
Yeah,
what one of my I always tell people, it's like just let it be, and that's two meanings. Allow it to exist. Don't do anything about it. Just let
yeah,
it be there. And you can just and I think I was in therapy for a while, and that was my therapist's advice, was he's like, if you feel sad, just allow yourself to feel sad. Just sit with it for a while. But I've also learned that I can say take that sadness and say, I need you to step back so I can function. To just be there, great. And I understand that I'm sad and I'm going, but sadness, I want you to just step back. Let me keep moving. And if you want to stay there in the background, stay there in the background, and I'll journal about it, work through it, walk through it later. But I acknowledge that it's there,
yep, absolutely.
and let's go ahead and move on or figure out why.
Mhm.
What triggered me? What happened?
I try to figure out what triggered me, but I've learned that I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out the whole whys of everything, because I think you could spend 20 years in therapy trying to figure out why when you were 6 something triggered you.
Right.
And I guess I ask myself, is really knowing the why going to help me to change? And it usually is no, it's not. So am I going to spend a bunch of time and energy trying to figure out why this thing bothers me? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how big a thing it is, but usually I just try to let it be in me for a little bit and then say, okay, well, what am I going to do about this? What is the next thing I need to do to make this not be a big deal, or to make it be a non-issue? Which might
Right.
be why not good enough is still popping up in my head, right? Because I didn't go back and find where the origin is of it.
Mhm.
Because I think there's some theory about if you find the origin of it, then you can work it out and get rid of it. And so maybe I need to do some of that. But I'm like, have to keep moving. I'm a keep moving kind of guy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I think more than anything, it's like just figuring out what the trigger is, and then you go, okay, I identified it. Yep, okay, that makes me sad. So okay, I had that trigger. I'm sad. Okay, I'm going to choose something else.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like nobody can trigger me like my ex-husband. I mean,
Yeah.
he can drive up the driveway and I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just, and I don't even have that relationship with them anymore, but it used to be so much like that, that it's just an automatic trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
know
got
it.
a minute?
Yeah.
I can't stand the phrase, you got a minute, because you got a minute was always followed by a lecture of what I was doing wrong or how I was thinking something wrong or whatever.
Right.
So I know most people love that and they think, oh, it's a great call when you're calling somebody and you're being respectful and you say, you got a minute? And I'm sure he probably learned it on some kind of a training thing like that. And he
Yeah.
used it on me for 20 years. And I'm like, please don't ask me if I've got a minute. Say,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing? I'll tell
Yeah.
you if I'm busy.
Right. Right.
So, but
Exactly.
that's a
I know.
trigger. And
I
so
Yeah.
if somebody for business calls me and says, you got a minute, I don't let it trigger me anymore,
Right.
because I know that that was a trigger. And so if you got to, there's things like that you got to figure out how to work around and work.
Exactly. Exactly. I know it's like I always like my mom will trigger me from time to time because I'm here up here helping her. And I mean, oh my God, we had one blowout where I swear to you, I turned back into 14-year-old me in a heartbeat. And I mean, complete with yelling and slamming the
Screaming.
door. And, I was like so mad. But, she installed those triggers. She helped make those what they are. And now her trigger, the thing that really drives me crazy is, she's blind and she's in a wheelchair, but her brain is still functioning. And she is a very intelligent woman and wants to figure out how to do things and how to make things work. I mean, she's constantly inventing stuff because she's bored.
Yep, that's awesome.
The problem is that when I'm trying to help her, she'll say, wait a minute, and then I have to stand and wait. And I'm like, can you just let me just do it? And so now every time she says, wait a minute, I'm like, yeah. Okay. You know, it's like,
I will make a tea, Mom. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to go, you go ahead and figure your thing and do the thing, and it'll be fine. And it's,
but that's what keeps her going, is that she's got that to figure stuff out. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And it is. And a lot of times, I mean, I think older people, I know she's pointed this out to me so many times, is that older people, people think that the elderly have lost their ability to reason and think and feel. They just think they're old and feeble. And so for her, I really have to stop myself when she says, wait a minute, because she really does. That's what she's got left. It's her brain.
Yep. That's awesome.
That's what she has left. And so it's like, it is necessary for me to honor that and just let her work it through. As much as I want to fix it for her, I want to get it done right now. That's not on me. That's that her experience is she needs that moment.
Well, I kind of think of that as like when we want to help our kids walk, we would never stop them from walking. Right. And it's the same thing with our elderly relatives. We just had my grandmother's 99th birthday last week.
Nice.
It was so fantastic because we had my 3-year-old granddaughter there and then my 99-year-old grandma and my kids and my mom, and my dad's passed away, but it was a wonderful party. But yeah, my grandma actually has some memory issues, so she's in a memory unit. The problem is she probably shouldn't have been there, and so she's gotten progressively worse, and she's lonely and sad and hates being there and whatever. But yeah, you have to give people what they need. And my sister always talks really loud around her like she's deaf. And I'm like, Grandma can totally hear you perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with her ears. You can talk to her in a normal tone of voice. But people get around old people and they change and they think that, you know, that they're any different than the rest of us. But no.
Yeah. Yeah. And that wisdom. I mean, I remember, and this was years and years ago, my mom told me when she was probably in her 60s or 50s or something, but she was like, you know, it's the weirdest thing is that this young person looks into the mirror and this old person looks back at him.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you have an age in your mind that you feel like you are inside?
17.
See, I have 23.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? But I'm like, you look in the mirror, you see all these wrinkles and saggy skin and rolls, and you're like, what the hell happened?
Where did that go?
What the heck happened? But isn't that? But I think that old people. I'm sure my grandma, although she's 99, she doesn't feel 99 inside. I bet she feels somewhere between 17 and 23.
Yeah, it's.
So we have to just remember that.
It's true. And I do. I love going to the adult center with my mom because they're such sweet people. And what happens is they have this adult jam on Thursdays where they play old music and they dance and they hang out. And I know that the greatest thing for her is that she gets to connect with people who understand.
Absolutely.
Have been there, done that. You know, it's like she was talking to this other lady who's 99 and just turned 100, I think, the other day. And she was like, oh yeah, I got married when I was 18 to a sailor, because that's what you did. And the other lady was like, oh yeah, I know, I married a sailor too. You know, because it was World War II and that's what you did, was you married a soldier as your patriotic duty, you know. So, but they get that and we don't because we weren't there. And so it's a fascinating life. It really is. It really is. And look, here we are an hour later.
Oh my gosh.
I tell people this is how I end everyone. I'm like, look, it's been an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. I've never understood. I don't even know if people find them fascinating or what, but I love a great conversation.
I think it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking to you and meeting you, and now I got to go finish my treasure hunt because I'm super curious.
Go do your treasure hunt. Yeah, that was.
Well,
it's going to get changed here soon, so you're going to have to go through it again anyway. But go ahead and go through the original one.
Well, I put a scavenger hunt at the front of mine, copying Landon. I admit it. I blatantly tell everybody, hey, I saw this on the Gorillas getting clients without being salesy group, and I created my own because I thought it was so awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mine is like I'm an engineer, so mine's like way long and way too much for people. It's like I've got to go to like a 5-step one
Yeah.
and narrow it down because it's terrible. I mean, it's really great information. If anybody wants to know how to grow a business and do the process of it, the whole process is mapped out, but it's too long and people just don't get it.
They drop off after a while. Yeah. I know, and that's part of business too, isn't it? It's shamelessly copying other people. I mean, I'm like, I pretty much, I don't know, you've probably seen Ben Perry too, who's, he's part of the Gorillas, and he also has Red Hot Marketing. And so we flat out copied set it down and said, okay, he did this, let's do one like this. He did this. And it's basically the same as Landon's. And it really is about learning that, well, this worked. Let's go ahead and follow this and see what happens and make it mine. So
I just like it because it brings people into my world. And guess what? It keeps a lot of people out of my world. That saves me a lot of headaches and a lot of heartache, because they shouldn't be in my world in the first place, because I would drive them crazy. And I don't want anybody in my group that I'm going to drive crazy. I do that. That's what my family's for, right?
Exactly. Well, it's been a great, I'm going to hit the end of the recording and we'll just talk here for a couple minutes.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this week's edition of Weekly Wisdom with Mama Starr. Be sure to join me next week for my next impressive and wonderful guest as we talk about balancing the spiritual and the practical in our lives. If you liked this broadcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and share my channel. And remember to make it a great day.